What popular rumor in your school turned out to be true? There was a family in my town that fostered to adopted all their kids. Everyone had known one of their daughters since she was quite young, and then they adopted another girl her age when we were in 8th grade. They did not get along. When the original girl developed epilepsy a few years later, her new sister claimed she was faking, and everyone thought she was so freaking mean and ostracized her. Eventually, she had to fess up to faking the seizures all along when she signed up for basic training, which she never even completed. Unfortunately, this was after we all graduated, so we never got to apologize to her sister. You could still look her up on FB to apologize. Our science teacher was having an affair with our science technician and regularly left the class to have sex with her in the technician's room. That rumor started day 1, then 4 years, 2 divorces and 2 very quick departures later it was confirmed, and what was left behind was a technician's daughter in my year whose life had fallen apart. What was left behind was a technician's daughter in my year whose life had fallen apart. That's just sad. That a 12-year-old 6th grader had gotten pregnant over summer break. Our Los Angeles County suburb. It was a small and far separated from LA itself. See how large that county actually is on Google if you are unawares. Was so scandalized by this rumor that a newspaper article came out with a cartoon drawing of a pregnant girl in a pretty little girl dress and ribbon in her hair, playing with dolls and kneeling next to her doll house, accompanied the story about the little girl who got pregnant and planned to keep the baby. She was interviewed. I remember her name, but it's unnecessary. The whole dang town knew who it was. What's wild is that the kids in junior high actually had a baby shower for this 7th grader as she got close to full term, and all brought in packs of diapers and formula for her on a designated day, with the teachers, principal, and probably the school district in support of this. The year was 1984 to 1985. Hope the kid and the girl is living fine now. In high school, that the biology teacher was growing weed in the environmental lab. Supposedly he did it for 30 years without anyone noticing. No one could ever prove it though. Later on, I was assigned to be the agent taking care of some of his financial matters, so I went to his house to have him sign some paperwork. He had a hydroponic setup there, so I asked him about the environmental lab. It was like Han Solo in The Force Awakens. It's true. All of it. Then he offered me a brownie. There was a rumor that a teacher had sex with whole basketball team. Turns out it was half of the team. Worst part is her son was on the team. Her husband ended up divorcing her and her son left with his dad. That one of the students was actually a cop. Turns out he was a cop and busted one of the actual students for selling handguns in school. If you thought 21 Jump Street was unrealistic, think again. Cop was a 33-year-old male and undercover for like half the semester. That one of the seniors in my school wrote all over the men's bathroom about bringing a bomb to school, but the bomb squad evacuated us all. Dogs came and they found one in a random locker. It was absolutely nuts. Kid got arrested 2 seats next to me in English class a couple of days later once they could prove he did it. A real bomb, holy SHT dang. In elementary, about 15 years ago, our favorite school teacher didn't come back after a summer break. He was awesome. Funny, sporty, cool, down to earth, never shouted, just a great role model to have around when you are a kid. Rumors went round that his wife and daughter died in a car accident. No one believed it. It was just what kids said on the playground. Somebody heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody. Then I went to the local grocery store with my mom a little while after school had started again. I saw my old teacher. He was a shell, a wreck. I was only 8, but even then you can tell when someone isn't there anymore. I asked parents of my friends, and they confirmed the rumors. I felt so bad that something as awful as that could happen to one of the best guys I ever knew and always looked up to. Turns out he committed suicide a couple of years ago. Same bridge that his wife and daughter died on all those years ago. I'd eat a gun if my wife and kids died. Living without them would be a torture that just wouldn't be worth enduring. There was always a rumor that the head janitor was a huge pothead and would smoke with students in one of the storage sheds away from the main building. I always figured it was bulls until my friend CJ sent me a pic of him and the janitor smoking weed while surrounded by folding chairs. Makes sense, I worked as a custodian at a school, and my co-workers were either always drunk or high. They never smoked with the students though. In my Catholic, Jesuit, high school, one of the priests and one of the nuns were very close friends. We all loved them, and we could see that they were quite fond of one another, and they made a really nice looking couple. We used to affectionately kid them about meeting in the tunnel between the convent and the rectory. A few years after my class graduated, they both left their orders, got married, and had kids. We're all happy for them. That's actually really sweet. We had a dean who retired one summer. Turns out, he was busted in a huge prostitution drug sting by cops. He had 2 prostitutes and C in his apartment when he got rolled up, ended up pleading guilty to felony drug possession, a few others I can't remember, and sentenced to 5 years of probation. He was an advisor for the school's drug alcohol task force. Nice enough guy, really cool with all of his students, maybe too cool, always seemed to have super red eyes. It's always the people who say don't that do. Here's a 2 for 1. First was that one of the kids in my grade way gay. Even back then, most people didn't care, so I didn't think anything of it. Second was that one of the kids hung himself on a swing set in a local park. They didn't say who it was, and just thought it was a vicious rumor about the same guy. Then 4 girls who were close to him came down the stairwell crying and ran out the front door and started heading in the direction of the park. It was confirmed around noon. We were sent home after lunch. Our freshman science teacher was a massive jerk to any girl, and would frequently throw the dress code book at girls for the slightest issue. Everyone said it was because he was his daughter became a stripper. That ended up being true. Dang, that's rough. In middle school, we had a cool social studies teacher. He loved the popular boys, especially the athletes, and not only ignored bullying in his classes of unpopular kids, he often took part in it. He also offered up his services for tutoring to these boys. Everyone always thought he was a child molester, except the popular boys who would threaten you if they heard you talk bad about him. When we came back to school at the beginning of 8th grade, he was gone, as was one of the more popular boys in school. He transferred to an insanely expensive private school. Turns out, sure enough, he was molested by the teacher several times during tutoring sessions at the teacher's house. The school district agreed to pay to send the kid to private school as part of a settlement. Oof, that's gonna affect the kid hard. Hope the kid is okay. That this girl at my school who was maybe 16 was banging all the older kids who never left for college. Well, she definitely was, and everyone found out when she banged one of the cooler guys still in high school, and there ended up being a herpes outbreak at my school. Nearly 40 people got herpes lol. Oof, always wear protection. I had a science teacher that was rumored to get a boner whenever he started shouting. We thought it was a myth until we noticed it for real. He would always try put one leg up on a chair to hide it. Give me a moment. Good to go. At our school, this one kid was rumored to be a son of one of the local gym's amateur boxer teacher. None of us had no real reason to think twice about it. Once we got to high school, this kid started teasing that kid. I had a couple of mutual friends with the bully, so I warned the guy he might want to let up on teasing him. A couple days go by, the dude didn't stop, and the boxer's kid proceeded to give this guy one of the worst one-sided fights I have ever seen. The bully learned his lesson and never bullied anyone else for the rest of our high school years. So it turned out to be true. In middle school, there was a rumor my 7th-8th grade social studies teacher owned a pet donkey. It turned out to be true. The donkey's name was Pedro the Donkey. I am so glad there are some wholesome content after 99% comments of teachers' students freaking. These took place in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Girl in my high school got into a very bad car accident and was in the hospital in a full body cast for a very long time. During that time, her boyfriend somehow managed to get her pregnant and she later had an abortion. Years after high school, I became friends with someone who was her best friend in high school. She told me that it wasn't the first time this boyfriend had gotten her pregnant or that she had had an abortion. Also, there was some controversy over whether the hospital sex was consensual or not. Also, her parents had to pay a lot of money for her to get therapy. Also, in high school, there was this kid I viewed as an arrogant punk. He always had a ton of money and was into photography. Apparently his father was a professional photographer. The rumor was that he was paying a lot of money to the hottest girls in our school to pose nude for him, penthouse style. At the time I had seen Playboys but no penthouses and didn't realize that the poses in Penthouse were a little more explicit. I ran into him a couple of decades later and we went to a nearby bar to have some drinks. He seemed very humble at this point, as if life hadn't grinded him down. He admitted to me that he had become an alcoholic. I told him about the rumor and he confirmed it, saying his father had put him up to it and that his father was the one who wanted the pictures and that was why his father gave him so much money. After his father died he inherited all his stuff and while going through some boxes he ran across the pictures. He destroyed them immediately, not wanting to get caught with them because they were of underage girls. I'll add this one even though it has not been confirmed and is probably somewhat true but not completely true as told. There were rumors that a girl who was a senior when I was a sophomore appeared in a P film while she was in high school. Again, this was the late 70s, probably 1978. And we were only about 20 miles from San Francisco, where a lot of those films were being made at the time. Also, she would have been 18 at the time. There are a few guys I know who have spent the last 40 years trying to find this film. I think that with the internet and all the resources available, IMDb, IAFD, Hamster and so on, if this film existed with her in it, someone from high school would have found it by now. I've heard from another that may know that all she did was agree to be an extra in a scene where she and a bunch of other extras went skinny dipping in a river for about $40 and that no one knows, including her, what happened to the film. My guess is that someone heard about this and decided to embellish the story. Also, there was some controversy over whether the hospital sex was consensual or not. My first instinct would be that it wasn't consensual, given how extensive her injuries were, and that other kid's father was a complete monster. Paige was pregnant. None of us believed her. We were 13 and we were just about to start sex ed classes in a few weeks to learn about sex, so we all thought she was making it up. Then she started to gain weight, but she had always been kind of overweight and so no one really believed her then either. Then she brought sonogram pictures and because she was sick of people not believing her, most people believed her after that. Then she got taken out of school and this was back when FB was super popular and everyone was talking about her baby. A few months later she had posted all these pictures. Sorry, I didn't believe you, Paige. I looked her back up when I was 15. She had a second kid. A girl in my econ class lost her dad, but a rumor started going around that he didn't die. He was arrested as a serial killer. Turned out to be true and was featured a few years ago on Evil Lives hair show. Two of the science teachers do shrooms together. Found out cause one of their sons was a student. Mayo, they are just collaborating with their curriculums. The captain of the cheerleader squad got a breasts reduction to go from H cups to DD. Oh, and also, some relatively unknown girl did pee on her senior year spring break after she turned 18. And this was 25 years ago, so she had to send letters and photos in the mail to set it up. The band director was grooming and seducing his favorite female percussionists. The new teacher was rumored to be a pedophile. We found out it was true when he got arrested just a couple days into the second semester. Rumor was the junior high English teacher was a bit of a perv. Most of our parents would say, hey, stop joking about that. Turned out he was. About 10 years ago he was arrested, charged and convicted on child P charges. Bit of a perv seems slightly understated. There were rumors that there was a network of underground tunnels that connected every building on my college campus. Didn't believe it till I walked through them myself. I know that's not about teachers fricking kids or incest or whatever, but I still think it's interesting. There was a rumor going around in my high school that an English teacher and a biology teacher were sleeping with each other. I thought it didn't make any sense at all. Other than being strict teachers who graded harshly, it's not like they had anything in common and I'd never even seen them talking to each other or interacting in any way. They were both married and besides, she was youngish and attractive and he was not. I had always figured that someone who managed to flunk both classes at the same time just decided to start a rumor. My brother is 6 years younger than me and during his time at the school they both were fired suddenly in the middle of the school year. Turns out it was true all along. They had been caught fraternizing on school grounds. I was pretty surprised. Of all the weird rumors that go around in a typical school, that was the one that had to be true. We had heard an underclassman. She was 15ish, was sleeping with a local army guy, but nobody really believed it until the day our school got locked down. BC, her boyfriend showed up with a knife. The boyfriend, in his 30s, was intending to force her go get an abortion, but our principal was a badass who locked her in his office, then took the boyfriend down and held him in a headlock until the cops arrived. That's a very badass principal indeed. Biology teacher decided to use a scientific method to personally prove or disprove to himself that humans could photosynthesize. He did this by laying bare butt naked on his front lawn, landing him a public nudity charge. All in the name of science. My middle school math teacher, married man, was having an affair with one of the special education teachers. Went on for years. After I graduated high school, he killed himself when the other woman gave him an ultimatum. Confirmed by a family member that worked as a substitute teacher. Coincidentally, said family member also had an affair with another employee there that resulted in that employee shooting herself in front of my mother. What a roller coaster of events. This was a rumor that went around my elementary school. Basically my school had a lockdown but they didn't tell us what it was for. One kid came in the next day and told us that his sister said it was a cow in the field in between the high school and middle school. So my second grade class went and told everyone else in the school. The next day we had an assembly that confirmed this rumor. Hahaha, this one's kinda funny. Hopefully the cow got taken off the field safely. New physics teacher was a total creep. The old spidey sense kicked in for all of us. We could all tell something was wrong with the guy. Most of us dropped the class. Plus he sucked as a teacher and everyone was failing. Years later I stumbled across a news article saying the teacher was fired and arrested for videotaping girls in the classroom through the use of camera hidden in the classroom, mostly aimed at cleavage and upskirt short shots. We knew he was a weirdo. Time always tells the tale. We had something similar. Teacher that started my final year and taught kids a couple of years younger was weird and disliked. Rumors spread towards the end of the year he tried to kiss a year 9 girl. Everyone assumed it was a rumor. Then a year after I graduated, the school's IT guy found P of 14-15-year-old girls on his computer. My AP US Gov teacher was the daughter of Phil Jackson. We all believed it, and during his last Lakers game her and her family was there and shown on screen. Got a screenshot of her at the game and shared with some friends. We all knew for sure then, but we never really brought it up to be respectful as she didn't like the attention for it. The band teacher was having a long-term affair with one of the students. We were in 8th grade. Her parents apparently knew about it all along and were fine with it, but one of the other band parents noticed inappropriate behavior when she was helping chaperone a Disney trip they were all on. It was big news, lol. One summer, we came back to school and noticed that the very popular drumline instructor and one of the female drumline members, 16 years old, had both disappeared. Obviously, we jumped to the conclusion that there was an inappropriate relationship going on. Just a few years ago, I was sitting next to a band teacher at a bar, and I relayed this story. He confirmed that it was true. That this hot chick at my school was banging 2 army recruiters. Found out it was true when they were on the news being arrested. One of them ran to, I think, Michigan with his wife and kids. Imagine trying to explain to your wife that you need to uproot everything including your kids and flee to another state because you fricked a high schooler. When I was a sophomore in high school, the basketball coach became the new principal of the school. He had a girl who was on the girls' basketball team worked in his office. Back then students were allowed to work as an office assistant if their grades were good and if they're seniors. She was there almost all the time even when she wasn't supposed to be. The rumor was that they were sleeping with each other because people would see them doing things after school, like running together and go out to eat somewhere. These rumors were later blew off as nothing because even though he was the principal, he still devoted his time to an after-school jogging running class to help students and teachers stay active and keep in shape, and buying dinner at McDonald's for a student isn't the same as taking them somewhere more extravagant like steakhouse. After I came back as a junior from summer break, everyone in our class and in the entire school found out that they both got married and were expecting their first child together. He was married with children from a previous marriage that ended after the girl graduated from high school. It wasn't really a rumor, more of an open secret. One of our English teachers was in the IRA. One of our history teachers once showed us a documentary about the early years of the Troubles, mainly the civil rights movement. And sure enough, in the film, you can see our English teacher standing holding a rifle without even a mask on him. At that point it wasn't really a secret anymore. IRA membership was supposed to be secret, but if you were in it everyone knew about. The fact is membership was confirmed with that video always made me laugh. We had 3 at my high school, in no particular order. The drama theater teacher worked at a strip club at night. She did, but as a waitress bar back. That 2 particular kids would often bang in the orchestra pit of the auditorium. My sophomore year, the 2 kids were caught banging in there and got subsequently expelled. That a specific history teacher was a Vietnam vet and had severe PTSD just waiting to be set off. One day we watched the D-Day scene, Beaches of Normandy, from Saving Private Ryan while studying World War II. That day, class was 20 minutes of movie, and 35 minutes of him sobbing under his desk while everyone sat there awkwardly in silence. All his other classes for the rest of the day were cancelled and he took some vacation time for a month or so after that. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.